If you still need the Darktide penance the bell tolls for thee, don't worry, you are not the only one. Taking on the Karnak twins on Secret Hard Mode is not for the faint of heart, but if you're struggling with this fight, rest assured you can do it. Whether you're watching this to prep for one of our community Karnak Hard Mode streams, or you're looking to fight the twins yourself in a public group, this guide will help answer any questions you may have and help you stand your best chance at success. Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button. I know this is gonna sound unusual coming from me because I'm generally a very, just do whatever you think is fun when it comes to my philosophy on playing games. But when it comes to completing Karnak Hard Mode, there are a few things you are going to literally be required to have or do before you can finish it if you're taking it on by yourself and not coming to one of the community streams. To get the penance the bell tolls for thee, you'll first need to complete the bell puzzle found on the Orthus Offensive map. If you haven't completed that puzzle and you're playing random public lobbies, check the pinned comment in the comments section for a link to that guide. If you're playing with a friend who has completed this and has the bell skip to the secret hard mode fight, or you're coming to one of my streams and you don't have this done, then you're fine. You just need to be playing in a lobby with a host who has finished the bell puzzle. Other than that, knowing how to block and dodge effectively will always be an essential and required skill set to have basically mastered in something that you're comfortable doing regularly as second nature muscle memory, especially for this boss fight. The hard mode version of the Karnak fight is essentially an Auric difficulty boss encounter, so I highly encourage that if you aren't at a place where you're playing Auric level missions yet, spend some time running those on high intensity shock troop gauntlet before you start bashing your face against this difficult boss fight. Or seriously, come to the streams any Saturday between noon and 2 p.m. Pacific time. We've helped people who aren't comfortable regularly playing Auric missions still get this achievement. The first thing a lot of people ask is what build they should bring to this hard mode fight, and the answer honestly is whatever class and build you personally feel the most experienced and comfortable playing. Depending on how many hours you have in Darktide, if you're looking to take on Karnak Hard Mode, you probably have spent quite a bit of time trying out different builds, classes, weapons, and playstyles, and have found what works best for you for both clearing hordes of enemies as well as dispatching the tougher specials and elites. That being said, there are two roles that I highly encourage to be able to finish this penance routinely, and those are the roles of your boss damage pusher Ogryn and what I like to call your veteran workhorse. Boss damage pusher is best done as a gunlugger Ogryn with nuke grenades. While there are other classes and builds that can do comparable or possibly even higher melee damage, a gunlugger Ogryn has consistent damage from range and can ignore a lot of the issues with stagger and pushback melee builds would have to deal with in this role. Also, the nuke grenades are super important because compared with the other role of your veteran workhorse, they're going to be able to refill their nuke grenades several times to basically reset the arena between phases. We'll get to when the Ogryn will want to use their nukes in the fight cadence section of the video. Here's a look at that Ogryn talent tree build, and the gun's perks and blessings. In our regular team, our Ogryn typically brings the Brank's pickaxe because it can pretty easily one-shot through tougher enemies like Ragers, Crushers, and Maulers. These enemies are going to be some of your top concerns that will always show up consistently. Here's a look at that pickaxe's perks and blessings. The workhorse veteran is super important because they are going to want to take the field improvisation talent, which allows allies to replenish grenades when they take ammo out of the ammo box, as well as provide faster healing from med packs that also heals through corruption, as long as your wound bar isn't completely full on corruption. Here is a look at my veteran's talent tree. I fill this role when running Karnak Hard Mode, and I also run a plasma gun on my veteran so I can quickly crack carapace and flak armored enemies. Here's a look at my plasma gun's perks and blessings. You'll notice my gun isn't entirely optimized, and honestly, that's okay. Being 100% fully optimized on all your loadouts isn't the end-all be-all of getting the bell tolls for thee done. Being comfortable playing at a high level of difficulty and/or having a team with good communication and clear roles is probably 90% of the fight. For my melee weapon, I tend to prefer a chainsword, but a force sword or any weapon with high cleave that's good for clearing hordes will be an excellent pick, because you'll have to deal with wave after wave of Poxwalker and Groner trash packs, and if you aren't managing your hordes properly, that will get the team overwhelmed and wipe your run almost every time. Since I use my plasma gun as my elite and special killer, I opt to not take the Mark IV dueling sword, but with its high level of single target weak spot damage, this sword is also an excellent option. I run crack grenades that replenish over time to have an oh shit option to clear packs of elites or even just regular horde enemies if anyone on the team gets overwhelmed. If you're watching this as a guide to prepare for coming to a Karnak Hard Mode stream and you're thinking, ah damn it, that's what I wanted to play, those roles will already be filled, these two builds are so strong that it never hurts to have duplicates of them. Hell, even having a team of all Gunloger Ogryns with nukes is an extremely strong approach to defeating the twins on hard mode. So by all means, bring these same builds even if you know myself and BD Dubs will have them as well. Another really strong class option is to bring a Zealot with a Flamer to keep Poxwalker hordes at bay consistently and also provide big damage over time to tougher enemies. The Karnak Twins hard mode boss fight is best done with a group of people who can coordinate and communicate easily, like in a Discord call. It absolutely can be done with random public groups, but know that your mileage is probably going to vary a lot depending on how communicative your team is. When you're in the room before the final boss fight, your workhorse veteran should be the designated person who picks up the ammo box, and then be sure to designate another person to pick up your med kit. Establish before getting in the elevator that your veteran should throw the ammo kit down in the middle of the arena immediately when the fight starts. That should be the first thing they do, is run toward Rinda and Rodin and put that ammo box down. No one except for your Ogryn or Ogryns with nukes should be allowed to use the ammo box until at least after Rodin is dead. Your teammate who has the med pack should be cleared to throw the med pack down in a fan safe zone during ideally the second tox gas phase. However, shit happens, and if you need to use it during the first wave of gas, that's okay, just as long as they know to put it in one of those areas where the fans are on and there's no tox gas. Make sure everyone's ammo is full, Medicae station is used when applicable, and before you hit the elevator button, make sure everyone has picked up a health stim. You don't want anyone going into this fight without one. Yes, even zealots that are running a high damage build. If your character dies, they don't get to be picked up and come back in hard mode. Death is a permadeath per run. Take your med stims and use them, even if you'll do a little bit less damage for a while because you healed. As soon as the cutscene is over and the fight starts, the veteran with the ammo kit should run immediately toward the center of the room and drop the ammo kit into the center circle. If this is your workhorse veteran, ideally they'll want to stick close to the boss damage pusher Ogryn to keep them safe from specials and elites so they can do their job of pushing boss damage as much as possible. When their bubble shields are up, Rinda should be the first priority to knock down and take out her bubble. As the twin who performs high melee damage, Rinda's shield takes more damage from range attacks. Knock her down, then pop down Rodin. Once their shields are down, your workhorse veteran that has the focus target talent should tag Rodin to apply extra damage on him from all teammates. Your Gunloger Ogryn will immediately start pushing boss damage on him with their gun for a consistently high amount of damage they will be able to do with their specific build. If any other teammates can safely attack Rodin and there's nothing in their face preventing them from being able to help push boss damage, great. But for anyone who isn't your designated role to push boss damage, horde and enemy management is always priority number one when anything besides the bosses are up. Once enough damage has been done to Rodin and the twins smoke bomb away, a fan will turn on and the area of the safe zone will become brightly lit as the room begins to fill with tox gas. The entire team needs to run here to avoid a massive amount of corruption from being caught in the gas. Waves of poxwalkers will consistently spawn, and elites and specials will come out of the doors around the arena. During this first tox gas phase, it generally isn't too hard to beat back the poxwalker waves and quickly take out any specials and elites that come your way. Spamming tag throughout the arena can help catch any taggable enemies that you may have missed sound cues for, and if you have a zealot on your team with fire grenades, throwing them into the boundary between the safe zone and the tox gas once per gas phase can be massively helpful. This is also where a zealot with a ranged flamer gun is extremely valuable. Once you've ran from one side of the arena to the other once, the tox gas phase will stop and Rodin and Rinda will return. If you have a large amount of poxwalkers and or elite enemies up, now is the time one Ogryn with a nuke will throw the first nuke, and they should aim it into the highest concentration of enemies to wipe out as many of them as they can at once. If this Ogryn is also your boss damage pusher, have them first grab another nuke out of the ammo box before resuming their designated role to refill their grenade. They should then resume pushing boss damage, beginning with Rinda to pop her bubble shield, then focusing Rodin. Your workhorse veteran should prioritize cleaning up any specials or elites that still remain after the nuke while sticking close to your boss pusher Ogryn. Repeat the same order of popping shields from phase 1, Rinda first, then Rodin, and once the shields are down, Workhorse Veteran should tag Rodin for the extra damage, and all team members that can safely do so focus damage on Rodin. But anyone who is not your boss pusher Ogryn, priority number 1 is horde and enemy management. Once Rodin has been damaged enough, the twins will smoke bomb away again, and the second Tox Gas phase will begin. Run to the lit up safe zone, and if the medkit was not put down during the first phase, you will definitely want to put it down now, even if everyone is still doing okay on health. This is the point where the fight is around halfway done and the intensity really ratchets up, so you'll want to have that medkit down and in an obvious place so everyone on your team knows where to go if they end up getting the shit kicked out of themselves and have already used their health stim. During the second Tox Gas phase, you'll run back and forth across the arena twice. If you have bad RNG and get a ton of elites and specials up on the second safe zone run, this can also be a fine time for one Ogryn to throw a nuke. Only one Ogryn at a time should ever throw a nuke because of their limited availability as a resource and their massive potential as a fuck you button to clear almost all of a horde if your team is getting swamped. Make sure your nuke carriers are communicating clearly if you have more than one regarding who is ready to throw a nuke so none are wasted. Every time an Ogryn throws a nuke, they should replenish that grenade at the ammo box until the ammo box is gone. If you kill Rodin and there's still uses of the ammo box left, that's when your team can communicate about who needs ammo pickups and decide on how to dole out the remaining uses. The optimal time for a nuke to be thrown is at the end of a Tox Gas phase when Rodin and Rinda come back into the fight, but lots of enemies are still up, preventing the team from refocusing on pushing boss damage. A nuke at the end of the gas phase is a great way to reset each new phase with the twins up and get everyone back into their positions for performing their role without having to fight a ton of stragglers left over from the Tox Gas phase. The main objective for clearing this fight is to try and minimize the amount of time both twins are up and try to get to the next Tox Gas phase as quickly as possible. You'll have to knock down the twins one more time and complete one more Tox Gas phase before you're able to actually finally kill Rodin. Once Rodin is dead, he's no longer able to throw his bombs and there's no more Tox Gas phases, making the fight much easier. When one of the twins dies, it also slows down the rate at which specials and elites spawn out of the side doors a marginal amount. Rinda is much easier to take on at the end of the fight since she can only be in one team member's face at a time, so she can't rotate targets as easily as Rodin can with his gun, and again, she doesn't throw down any extra environmental hazards. As long as at least half your team is still alive by the time Rodin is dead, you stand a pretty good chance at completing your run and killing the Karnak twins. It isn't a complete certainty since you'll still be dealing with tough enemies and regular horde spawns, so getting overwhelmed is still possible, but the fight becomes much easier. Stay locked in and do not let up on horde management and protecting your boss damage pusher until the job is done. You'll have to survive through Rannick yapping as well, so again, play smart and safe and assume nothing is cake until you see your rejects walking away from the twins' twitching corpses. Unless of course you've killed everything in the arena before Rannick is done talking, then you're fine to go teabag Rinda if you really want to. Did this guide help you get your Karnak Hard Mode done? Let me know in the comments! And if you're having a hard time completing this penance, consider dropping by any Saturday between noon and 2 p.m. Pacific time to do a hard mode run with us. We have a really high success rate and it's always open to anyone in the Darktide community. Happy penance grinding, and until next time, I'll see you out there against the Darktide. Thanks so much to these amazing supporters, Leah S. over on Patreon, and Rue on Top, Comadre, and Daniel Gerber, who are YouTube channel members.